Uh, Today I'm gonna show you how to set up a 10 gigabit direct connection without a switch between ESXi host, in my case hosted on Dell 7060 desktop, and a QNAP TVS-951, which is my network attached storage device. And the good thing is it comes with 10 gigabit port already built in. So I wanted to take advantage of it and look for different solutions, but the reality is all the switches and everything that's 10 gigabit is more of a business and commercial. So it's really expensive. So for a basic switch, you're looking at like 200 to like 500 bucks in today's money. So wasn't really a feasible solution for me when prices of others are like between 50 and 100. I mean, it's just I couldn't justify paying so much more. So I decided to go with a direct connection. And since I already have my QNAP with RG45, 10 gigabit port, I was like, yeah, well, let's use a crossover cable and connect it directly to my Dell desktop that hosts this and just use it in crossover mode. So here's what I have. It's a 9 bay. I have 2.5s at the bottom and couple hard drives, 12 terabytes on top. On the back, you can see you have 10 gigabit port, RG45, and 1 gigabit port, and all the rest I don't really use. Then you have the power supply. For my desktop, it's Optiplex 7060. This already comes in with built-in um, Intel gigabit NIC card, which is supported by ESXi. I previously I had, what was it, Optiplex 3050, which came with Realtek, and that just didn't work out. I had to go through some tweakering to make it work. So I decided to go with this particular piece of hardware. It has a Intel i7, 32 gig of RAM, 250 NVMe PCIe storage, 2 terabytes on the side for additional storage. That's where I run my Plex, and I have a lot of recordings. I have the built-in gigabit with L217-LM and a spare Intel 9301, which I have in teaming, NIC teaming between these two, and then separately I run X540T1 10 gigabit NIC. With this desktop, I had issues having 4 slots of RAM utilized and the card running. So the desktop would just not come on, and I would get like a orange light, and I was wondering if this is a faulty network adapter. But then, based on what I read, removing 2 of the RAMs, the RAM, how you call it, modules, and leaving only 2 in the first and the third slot seemed to fix it. I'm not sure what was that about, but I had 4 times 8, so I pretty much sold the D8 and got 2 16s, and it seemed to be running well. Here is the card, Intel 540 10 gig. I got it for what, 55 bucks off of eBay. Current prices are somewhere around like 90 to 100 bucks. So my setup currently is 1 gig. I have a native, how to say, I use Ubiquiti, and my 1 gig network is through Ubiquiti switch, USG, and then you have the Comcast modem, and that goes to the internet. So for the purposes of this particular presentation, I'm gonna do a additional direct connect between the QNAP, which is gonna be plugging a crossover cable into the 10 gigabit port, and then I'm gonna do the same. I have it installed over here, the 10 gigabit NIC, and Gonna establish a 10 gigabit connection between those through a crossover cable. And the most interesting thing is, since I didn't have Cat 6 or 7 that's currently supported, I went with Cat 5e. And believe me, the wiring is the same. It's all about distance. So the more distance you have, the extra shielding that comes with Cat 6 and Cat 7 really helps isolate any like interference. So for sure, distances, I really didn't see any issues. Again, uh, I have quite. I mean, I couldn't test the full 10 gigabit potential. The most I got is like 7 gig. Could be related to this. I don't know, but at least I'll show you that it's working, and maybe it's additional tweaker that I need to do to take the full 10 gigabit potential of this. So I have my QNAP on the 1 gig connected through the regular network with this IP. Then for the purposes of direct connect, since there is no DHCP server, I'm gonna manually assign those IPs, and this is basically the network IP I'm gonna give it for the ESXi natively on the 1 gig network. It resides on this IP, and then I have two instances of virtual machines, Windows Server, which I call 3050, and then Ubuntu that are currently connected to the 1G network at this IP, and for the crossover solution and the lack of DHCP, I'm gonna assign manually these static IPs. So let's go to what I have here, my ESXi. So here is the network. If we go to the physical NICs, you can see the three NICs over here, and the one that I currently have has a 10 gigabit on the bottom. Then we're gonna go to the QNAP and go to virtual switches. You can see the two adapters here. Since these are already connected, it went through 169 to 54 range because it really cannot grab. There is no DHCP, so this is automatically by default if there is no DHCP. So what I'm gonna do over here, I'm gonna manually assign that IP that we saw in the presentation for, let's assign 1.1.1.1. There is no gateway. This is just a peer-to-peer network, so there is no really point to get out of this network. So we're gonna do 10.10.10.20, and here select the 9000. These are the jumbo frames. Since this is a 10 gig connection, the best results from what I research is through the jumbo frames. Make sure that all of your devices that are connected to this are set to 9000. Okay, default gateway, they don't like that, so let's make it part. So here and 1. Okay, for DNS, I already have that as well. Okay, I'm gonna press apply. So the way this works, there are two entry points into the storage device. One is through the regular connector that goes to the internet. Second, let's let it load. Okay, so here is where my QNAP is attached to the network, so you can access it from anywhere on my network. And this on the top is the direct crossover connection through to the ESXi host. This one doesn't have gateway, and it's strictly peer-to-peer between the storage and the ESXi host, or the place that I put my virtual machines. So next thing is we need to set up a virtual switch. So what that does is it uh, creates a virtual instance of a switch, just like in the real life you have a switch. that's physical, that has a lot of ports on it. It's the same thing here. We create a virtual switch that will have on one, how to say it, one physical NIC that it will go out with. So in this case, let's call it 10 GBE switch. And for the uplink, we're going to connect it to the 10 gig device. That's actually the only thing that's available. Here it is. So right now this switch is tagged to this physical NIC. So anything on it, any machines we need to connect through what's called port grouping. Port grouping, think of this as you have the switch, then you have the virtual machines that we're going to create additional adapter into, and those will connect with to the switch with what's called virtual group. So here we're going to do 10 GB port group, and we're going to assign it to the 10 GB switch. So anytime you create additional NICs into your VM machines, uh, virtual machines, just make sure you assign them to this port group. Okay, so with that, we want to go ahead and set it up for my Windows. So we're gonna open it. I'm gonna go to edit, and what we're gonna do now, since we already have one network adapter that's connected to the regular network, we want to add additional network adapter for the 10 gigabit connection, right? And with that, make sure for Windows you do VMXNet 3. That's probably will give you the most speed. As you notice, we don't assign any IPs here because that basically is just like on the real case scenario. In the real world, you rarely go into the switch and you assign any IPs. Usually those IPs are assigned on the host level, right? Let's go through the setup with the Ubuntu. I'm gonna do the same thing there. So currently has one network. We're gonna add one more. It's gonna be on the 10 gigabit port group. And let's go ahead and power them on. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this thing is on. Now we're gonna go to the Ubuntu, and Ubuntu's on as well. Okay, so when we go back to networking, what are you gonna see here when you click on the port group? You're gonna see these two machines connected through this virtual switch to this network. And from here, through a crossover cable, it's gonna be connected to the QNAP. So as you notice, there is no management network assigned to this. So this is strictly for the virtual machines to connect to the storage. So if you happen to want to access the management, you have to add it, which in this case we won't really need because we already can access that through the regular network, which is the 1G network. So what we're gonna do now is go to the Ubuntu. Let's open it on the new tab. Here you're gonna see those two adapters now, and one's gonna be at 10,000. So for this, I play with it, and that's why you have already some settings here. But what you have to do in this case, just like let's for what's in the manual, we're gonna assign a manual IP to this one, and we have to disable it and enable it for that to take. And now when you go and you try to ping my QNAP, which has this IP, see if it's gonna go through. Hmm. I have firewall on this enabled, that's why. I'm gonna do iPerf, which is gonna allow me to do some speed testing. I have another iPerf on my QNAP, so okay, same thing. So let's disable sudo yo. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is reboot. Let's see if that will work. Let's see if it's gonna work maybe on Windows, since I don't have. I find it a little bit easier on Windows. So here again, you gotta go into network settings, go into Ethernet, change adapter options. So as you can see, 10 gigabit is already here. Now what we're gonna do is in IP settings, you're gonna put this, what was it, 50, okay? And you don't enter anything else. Okay. Now when we go to command, okay, and now we're pinging the QNAP. Let's do a speed test. Okay, let's see if those packages, if I have the jumbo frame enabled on this one. Jumbo packets, yeah, those are at 9,000. Maybe the interface on the card itself. Uh, okay, yeah. The switch itself is only set at 9,000. So what we did is we put it to 9,000, and let's see if this will make any difference. Okay, a little better, I would say. To be honest with you, I couldn't go past like 5.2, maybe it's limitation of it. On the Ubuntu, I got a little better, like 6.7, something like this. But so here you go and you type the IP address of the storage, and let's go here. I did some testing. So I have large files that's currently is like 3 gigs. If I copy this, because I have hard drives, and it's not really any SSDs, that's probably the most I can get on from my QNAP, but it is what it is. So we're gonna copy it back. Maybe if the cable is Cat6 and my storage is all NVMe, it might be better, but this is what I have at the moment. Okay, let's go back to my Ubuntu. So we're gonna try to ping. Okay, and it's pinging now. It was a firewall issue. And as you can see, it's a little better. Again, it's not the full 10 gig, but when you're dealing with virtual environments, maybe there is quite a bit in between that would not allow it. So uh, I have this folder mapped over here, and to show you, let's do the same thing. I'm gonna copy. I love Ubuntu. Okay, and here you can see a little better. Okay, and we're gonna transfer it back. Again, it's not gonna work like this, I know. It's much faster than the 1 gig, so I'm pretty happy with it. Not the best, but hey, when you have large files, that's a really good option to go with. That's all I have. Thank you so much for watching.